What's up, everybody? I hope you're having a fantastic day. When you are watching this, I will be in the Dominican Republic. I'm recording this on Sunday evening, and a couple things jump out when it comes to this Brock Purdy situation. Tom Pelissero recently came out, went on Rich Eisen's show, and said that if the 49ers want to lock Brock Purdy down, they're going to have to give him top of the market quarterback money. And I think that surprises a lot of people. A lot of people thought he would give a discount, and maybe he still will. We'll see how this thing plays out. But at least in the beginning, his agent is playing hardball already, saying they want top tier quarterback money. And this just sours me even more on signing Brock Purdy. I don't understand. I just got done watching 2 games today. Well, a lot more than that, but the 2 games that I really fixated on were the Baltimore Ravens, where Lamar Jackson put up 5 touchdowns and sat out a big portion of that fourth quarter. And Josh Allen now coming off of 2 games where he has over 850 total yards and 10 touchdowns. Where in the world is Brock Purdy when you compare him to those two? I mean, they're not even in the same stratosphere. And if you're not even in the same stratosphere as those guys, I'm sorry. You can't get paid top tier money. The 49ers will not win with that kind of money being shelled out to a non-elite quarterback. They are not special. No other non-elite quarterbacks getting that kind of money are going to win either. They haven't yet in the salary cap era. Brock Purdy will be no different. And the 49ers cannot make this mistake with Brock Purdy. And I'm going to read some numbers for you. And then we're going to talk a little bit further about this whole situation. Check out the sponsor of today's video, Underdog. Link is in the description. Promo code LSS. That'll get you a deposit match, 50% up to $1,000 plus 1 free play. Underdog has so many options to have fun, put a little skin in the game. You can do more or lesses. You can do weekly fantasy. You can do daily fantasy, yearly fantasy, and multiple sports to choose from. Basketball, football, baseball, MMA, the list goes on and on. Have a little bit of fun with Underdog. They've been a great sponsor all year long. Thank you so much, Underdog. Appreciate you. Links in the description. Check them out. Brock Purdy this year in touchdown percentage ranks 19th. His average in touchdown percentage is also below the league average. His interception percentage, he ranks 18th in the league, also worse than the league average. Yards per game, he ranks 14th. Passer rating, he ranks 15th, slightly above the league average. And he leads the league in sacks taken as a quarterback, meaning he being the reason for a sack happening or a quarterback being the reason versus the offensive line or bad blocking, what have you. He leads the league in sacks taken as a quarterback. Also, let's look at his fourth quarter in his career. Plus or minus 7 points. So basically 1-score games in his career. When games are tight in the fourth quarter, how does he fare? 57.4% completion percentage. 3 touchdowns, 6 turnovers, 68 passer rating. We know he doesn't play well in inclement weather. He doesn't play well in close games in the fourth quarter. He hasn't played well this year statistically and on film outside of a couple games. Are we sure he's not a CMC merchant? I mean, are we positive about that? And the only reason I bring this up is because Jimmy Garoppolo had never gone 4 straight games in his career without a turnover. In the moment CMC was here, he went 5 straight. Had arguably the best 5-game stretch of his career with CMC. And less than a year later, he couldn't even hack it as a starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. Same guy. He was the same guy. Once with CMC, once without, and that's what it looked like. Had never gone 4 straight games in his career without a turnover, and he does it 5 straight with CMC. They go 4-1 during that stretch. Obviously, he injures his foot. Brock Purdy comes in, and we know the rest. But Brock Purdy this year essentially hasn't had CMC. Even when he had him, he didn't have him. CMC was not CMC of last year. He wasn't Offensive Player of the Year CMC. And Brock Purdy has not played well this year. And in fact, one of his better games against the Buccaneers, that was CMC's first game back. Now, CMC didn't play great in that game, but the threat of CMC might have been enough to where that defense focused in on him. And Brock Purdy was able to go out there and put up some really good numbers that game. And then after that, they figured out, oh, CMC's the same player by name, but he's not necessarily that guy. And so other teams figured it out a little bit and knew what he was and what he was not. And once they figured it out, it's like, okay, we can go right back to playing the 49ers like we were before. But that first game back, nobody knew. Brock Purdy plays really, really well. Is that a coincidence? Maybe. But what I do know is since the Ravens game, he has not been good. This year, he has not been good. In the fourth quarter of close games, not been good. What separates him from Baker Mayfield? Baker Mayfield is making like $33 million a year, got a 3-year contract. Now, obviously, inflation a couple years later, if Brock Purdy got a $40 million a year, 3-year contract, that would be roughly what the Baker deal is. Let's look at those two real quick. Let's look at their numbers. Last 2 years. So Baker on Tampa, Brock Purdy, 49ers, last 2 seasons, 2023, 2024. Yards per game. Baker Mayfield, 259 total yards per game. Brock Purdy, 271. Brock Purdy's obviously better, slightly. Completion percentage. Baker Mayfield, 66.9% completion percentage. Brock Purdy, 67.4%. So a 0.5% higher for Brock Purdy. Touchdown to turnover ratio. Baker Mayfield accounts for 2.06 touchdowns per game and 0.94 turnovers. Brock Purdy accounts for 1.79 touchdowns per game and 0.86 turnovers. So touchdown to turnover ratio, Baker Mayfield has the edge. The point is that they're close in all three. These are your major statistics. They're close in all three. And we're saying, all right, Brock's worth $60 million a year. He's worth literally double what Baker Mayfield is. How? Baker Mayfield took the Bucs to the playoffs last year. Looks like they're on their way to go into the playoffs again this year. The Eagles have 2 losses this year. The Lions have 2 losses. Tampa Bay's beaten both those teams. Baker Mayfield's playing really good football. I've never been a Baker guy. Obviously, Brock's younger. I'd rather have Brock slightly, maybe. I don't know. For a year, I might take Baker, but for a career and hoping that Brock Purdy can keep ascending a little bit, I would take Brock or take my chances on that. But the numbers are not that different. Brock Purdy is literally living off of essentially one season of football, the tail end of 2022 into 2023, and then started to fall off after the Ravens game. And from that point forward has been very, very mediocre. Very mediocre. I mean, even without his weapons, it's like, okay, well, yeah, I get it. He hasn't had his weapons. You would think there would be some regression, but literally not even league average in the major numbers. And even without those weapons, are you telling me that Justin Herbert has better weapons this year than what Brock's playing with? Justin Herbert has 2 interceptions. 2. He hasn't been a turnover merchant. He certainly doesn't have better weapons than what Brock's had this year. Not even close. Not even close. Josh Allen doesn't have better weapons than what Brock has. Hell, Baker Mayfield doesn't have better weapons than what Brock has. I mean, he was without Evans and Godwin Godwin, he's been missing for like 5 weeks now. Evans, he missed for like 4 weeks. Tristan Wirfs missed a few games. Like they've been dealing with things, but as I just showed, the numbers are very similar. I also want to add that there is nothing over these final 3 games that Brock Purdy can do to change my mind on this. This is essentially you're down by double digits. There's 20 seconds left in the game. You got one final drive. Teams are playing prevent. These games mean nothing. Absolutely nothing. So Brock can come out and throw for 500 yards, 5 touchdowns in every single one of these games, and I do not care. There's nothing on the line for the San Francisco 49ers. Hell, there's nothing on the line for 2 of the 3 of the teams that they are going to play. So to me, spare me on whatever happens these final 3 games. I really could care less. The 49ers cannot pay Brock Purdy that kind of money. I don't care. If he sits out, like the multiple questions you're probably asking right now are like, well, what else are you going to do? Well, I'm going to make him play out his contract. Well, what if he sits out? Who cares? They're not winning the Super Bowl next year anyways with Brock. I would rather play hardball, have him sit out, see how that works for him, because I'll guarantee you there's not a team in the league that would pay him that kind of money. Not a team in the league. So if he wants to play hardball, then let's play hardball. That's the way that I see it. You're not winning the Super Bowl anyways next year with Brock, so who cares? Who cares if he sits out? What are we going to do? Get a better draft pick? Trade him? Get more draft picks? It's not about finding a better quarterback than Brock. It's about, can you find somebody that's can do 85% of what Brock does and do it on a rookie contract while he's making $60 million? I think I could. I think you can find that guy. I think you can find that guy probably pretty easy, actually. I mean, we watched Jimmy Garoppolo play really good football, and we know he's not good. We know for a fact he's not good. And the only data point we have right now is that Brock's better than Jimmy. And we've all said that, and we all believe that. But how much better? We don't know the answer to that. They both went to a Super Bowl. They both went to an NFC championship and lost. They both have put up really good numbers for a period of time. They both have struggled with injury. They both have struggled with not having their people around them, how they look. Like they've done a lot of the same things. Now, Brock's injuries haven't taken their toll on the 49ers the way that Jimmy's did, right? Because of the timing of those injuries. But Brock's been pretty banged up and multiple injuries to his throwing arm. Like, that's not encouraging. It's not. So you've got a guy who's hurt his throwing arm multiple times. Statistically is really not much different than Baker Mayfield, if at all. Doesn't play well in inclement weather. Fourth quarter of close games, not good. And essentially for a full season of football has not even been league average in a lot of statistical categories. You want to pay him $60 million for what exactly?